Meet Teresa Kohnle, whose life took a harrowing twist in 2007. With her husband Jim and their two children, Allison and Caleb, they ran a thriving practice in Ringgold, Georgia. But then, life threw them a curveball. Jim's health plummeted and Teresa faced not one, but 4 heartbreaking losses. Just as they were staggering on the brink, their home went up in flames, claiming Jim's life. The chilling revelation? This wasn't an accident. Who set their world on fire? Why did tragedy strike when they were most vulnerable? Was Teresa really behind this horrific event? Or was something more sinister at play? Join us as we delve into the gripping tale of Teresa Kohnle. In this setting, detectives Holden and Canner reintroduced themselves, explaining they've returned to have a conversation with her concerning the fire that occurred on June 29th, 2007.
I don't know, it was we always woke up 6:30, 7 o'clock, drank our coffee together, talked. I don't know, husband and wife things. That's what you do before you get kids up. And I was going to go get a car, took my shower.
They request that she recount the events of the previous week, prompting her to quickly respond, "I have no knowledge of the fire." However, the detectives aren't about to grant her a free pass. They insist that she begin discussing the events of that specific day, starting with the morning hours.
I know we didn't leave any later than 8:30. I know that. Went to Chick-fil-A. I paid for mine at her with cash. She went behind me. I mean, in the same car, separate orders. Left there.
She informs the detectives that they departed prior to 8:30 that morning. Additionally, she shares with them that she, along with the children, made a stop at Chick-fil-A to grab some food. She doesn't miss mentioning that although they placed separate orders, they did so while in the same car. But it's interesting to note that Chick-fil-A had surveillance video of Teresa in the drive-thru just after 9:30 that morning, which means that she was there before the fire started. Teresa would have left her home around the time the fire began. She tries to fool the detectives by getting all emotional, trying to emphasize the fact that she was not at the house when the fire started.
But nothing makes sense, and I don't understand, and I don't know what to do. You guys tell me. This is your scope, not mine. I don't know what to do. I don't know what you need to know. I don't know how to answer you because I wasn't there,
well, I mean,
and I don't know.
The easiest way to answer us is to make sure you're telling us the truth when you answer us.
She even gets so desperate that she asks them to go ahead and call all the reputable people in her contacts to prove that she is true to her word. The detective then asks her whether they had a good marriage.
So you say you had a good marriage?
We had a wonderful marriage. I mean, everybody has their days you don't like them. You love them, but you don't like them. But
so your only problems in your marriage were dealing with his health and financial problems?
And those had just started really the last 2 years.
The toxicology reports indicated that Jim had been significantly sedated before the fire began. This forms the initial point of inquiry for the investigators. They commenced their questioning by inquiring about the medications Jim had been taking. Teresa starts listing the medications smoothly, but when it comes to the ones that indicated drowsiness in Jim, she experiences a sudden lapse in memory and struggles to recall their names. Teresa also goes ahead to state that Jim was bipolar and that he was depressed. She also started talking about the times Jim had snapped due to his bipolarness, trying to blame everything on her dead husband.
He did have bipolar and he was depressed, but he loved life and he loved what he done. And I don't know, do people do things like this and just not mean to? Because I mean, he has snapped with bipolar before.
The detectives then inquire about their financial challenges. She mentions the fact that she underwent 4 surgeries last year and lost her daughter. She tells them during that time she filed Chapter 13, which permits a debtor to maintain their assets while paying off their debts over time, often 3 to 5 years. The detectives inquired if she feared losing their home.
That was up in the air because I was going to be able to call. I got a letter from their attorney that I had 30 days to make a proposal or something like that. But
She tells them that the issue with the house would have been okay because her father was willing to lend them the money. The investigators are aware of Jim's substantial $500,000 life insurance policy, a sum that could have potentially resolved all of Teresa's financial problems. However, when questioned about the policy, Teresa stated that she preferred not to inquire about the exact amount it held.
You yourself and your husband?
Me, my dad carries mine, and it's like, I think 150, 170 some thousand. His, I don't know. I told him that because people are people. And I am 23 years younger than him.
The detectives didn't tell her that, even though they dived deep into her marriage, they could not find any proof that she had a great marriage. They also started pointing to the 3 to 4 extramarital affairs she had, which she strongly denies.
How is that?
Well, I mean, we're finding that
2 or 3, 4 extramarital
At
affairs.
What?
I don't think you want me to give you the names.
I do want you to give me names because I want it proved.
Be pretty easy to do.
The detectives then started stating that Jim also had filed a Chapter 13, which seems to have surprised Teresa.
When did he
There's
file
two.
13?
There's 2 liens against your house right now in the courthouse. And
When did
you
he
owe,
file Chapter 13?
Let me finish. And you owe, there's 2 federal liens against the business.
She tells them that all the federal liens against the business are being worked out between her and George Tyler at the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS. She then asks the detectives what they think, and this is when things start to go down a spiral. During her initial interview, Teresa asserted that her marriage was a blissful one. She viewed her husband as flawless. However, as the investigation unfolds, her perspective undergoes a profound shift. Her evolving narrative now portrays him as a potentially dangerous individual, suggesting he possessed the capability to set their home on fire. However, the detectives already had information regarding when the fire started and when Teresa left her home.
you know what time the fire call comes in?
I have no clue.
Right around 9:30.
What?
Right around 9:30. And it's been burning probably,
She then again tries to switch the story and adds new details to it, saying that it was the last couple of weeks that her husband kept on saying that he wanted to die. He was a burden, and he was better off dead. At this point, Teresa is trying hard to find the right words, and the detectives are getting closer to the truth. They then ask her whether she knows what an accelerant is. The moment the term accelerant is introduced, Teresa promptly mentions that Jim had been engaged in painting activities, and as a result, there were painting materials present in their home. It's later revealed that the fire was initiated using paint remover. Detectives raise an intrigued eyebrow at Teresa's connection of painting supplies to a potential accelerant. The detective then tells her that her husband would not have set that fire without her knowledge. The detective shifts the conversation toward their suspicion that Teresa may have been administering drugs to her husband. Teresa had previously shared that she and her husband routinely enjoyed their morning coffee together, leading the investigators to speculate that she may have introduced the medication into his coffee cup. At this point, Teresa's lies are all crumbling down.
You just told me 2 or 3 minutes ago that he stayed in bed, you got up and went and fixed your coffee.
I did.
So which is it? Did y'all both go in there and fix the coffee, or did
He
you just
went
go?
in after the bathroom. I had already went in.
Presently, the evidence they've gathered against her remains largely circumstantial. However, one of the detectives is formulating a plan. He's on the verge of proposing something to Teresa, the possibility of undergoing a polygraph test. Yet, there's a catch. She'll need to provide a signed stipulation. This stipulation, in plain terms, signifies that if Teresa were to fail the polygraph test, the results could be used as evidence against her in a court of law. Upon consenting to the test, Teresa's primary worry doesn't resolve around the fire incident. Instead, her foremost concern centers on the number of past affairs she engaged in. During the earlier phases of the interrogation, detectives hinted at their knowledge regarding her less than happy marriage, citing awareness of at least 4 affairs. Realizing that questions about these indiscretions may surface during the upcoming test, Teresa seeks to understand the extent of their knowledge before proceeding.
I've answered you all.
Sure.
How many more affairs have I had just out of curiosity?
I know of 2 for sure.
Do you mind me asking who?
I don't mind you asking. I'm not going to tell you right now, but I can prove it. I can tell you that.
Really?
As they hand Teresa the stipulation paperwork, she finds herself with just one more inquiry to make before putting the pen to paper. Teresa returns the next week to undergo her scheduled polygraph examination. She then makes a major mistake, which leads the detectives to confirm that she had a part in starting the fire.
If you choose
He
not
told
to tell
me
me the
he
truth.
wanted to die.
Okay.
He told me he wanted to die, and he told me to leave the house. And I said, baby, I'm going to get the car in Knoxville. And he said, don't ask me no more questions.
A Freudian slip occurs when a verbal or memory lapse seems connected to the unconscious mind. For instance, when someone unintentionally utters their ex's name while addressing their current spouse, it's a classic example of a Freudian slip. In Teresa's situation, her attempt to evade the truth might have been the catalyst for her own slip. Detectives discovered proof that Jim tried to put out the fire with his feet before the smoke made him stop breathing. This tells them that Jim didn't want to die, and he also didn't want his house to burn down. The police suspected Teresa of a chilling plot. They believed she drugged her husband, waiting for him to fall asleep into a deep slumber. With urgency gripping her, she doused the floor with accelerant, wanting the fire to consume everything swiftly. Teresa even placed some of her children's clothes in the garage and then loaded the kids into the car, but she didn't leave the scene just yet. Here's where things take a dark turn. Teresa returned inside to ignite the fire. The catch, though, was that the evidence against her was largely based on circumstance. To build a stronger case, the investigators turned to her 2 children. Their accounts became pivotal. As the family sat in the car, the kids noticed ominous black smoke billowing from their home's rear. Naturally, they asked their mother about it. Her explanation was chillingly nonchalant, claiming that she was just burning some old papers. This testimony served as the final evidence for the prosecution, finally pushing them to charge Teresa with murder. Facing a formidable legal battle, Teresa's lawyers advised her to accept a plea deal. In exchange for her guilty plea, she received a life sentence with a slim glimmer of hope. The chance for parole after enduring 35 long years behind bars. It's a grim reality. Teresa will be nearly 70 years old before she even gets a shot at freedom.